Greetings and welcome to Project Pandora. I am Darkling and this is Ark Survival Evolved. Nice gloomy day today. Today we're going to tackle the bridge across to the base and the sea pen. There's just a little bit of column work that I want to do, and as far as I'm aware that is the last thing needed to finish the base. I may still have to add a few more lights here and there, I'm not entirely sure, but we're really close now. So stick around and hopefully you'll learn something. Okay, so we actually lost a little bit of footage. I stuck a few lights around the top and filled in a few spots that were missing tiles around the top of the towers. I forgot to set my stopwatch, which I've actually forgotten to do again, and when I went to check my recording time, I found that OBS had stopped recording and for some reason wasn't actually responding at all to the stopping and starting of the recording. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I also added in the tech trough up in the top level. So there's a few minor things that got missed. They aren't huge major parts, mostly just lighting and, like I said, just those few tiles being placed in. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up and do the columns. Now I'm actually quite looking forward to these. I can't wait to see what they look like. I've got a good idea for what I want. It's a combination of a couple of techniques that I have used in the past, and I'm not quite sure how it's going to turn out. I may have to put a... oh, there it goes. So what I want to do is build this up a little bit. Oh, that's a horrible snap. I don't think I'm going to connect to the lower snap point on this one. I think I'm going to use the top snap, whereas normally I would make sure I got the correct one. Well, apparently this isn't going to let me grab it at all. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of each at a time, just while I work things out. These torches here are going to come out. Okay, I think the best thing to do is actually build the first one, and I need to be sure which way around I'm doing things. Like I said, it's a variation of something I've done before, so it's not going to look the same. So I've done a few things that have this particular shape on them. I quite like the shaping of it, but what I'm going to do is use a glass wall to separate out and make a raised segment to go so it matches the base. Nope. That's the one. So I've definitely not got enough resources on me, but I'm going to get things underway. Do I have any ceilings on me? No, I don't. These ones will have to do. I can't be on the moving Quetzal, otherwise it's going to throw my snap points out. Now you might be able to tell from my voice I am still sick. The benefit of having been sick is I've actually managed to get quite a bit of recording done. I've had some ups and some downs, so hopefully this video is one of the ups. I've actually got to keep pressing the push to mute because I keep coughing, and thankfully I think I've caught all of them. When you're in a hurry to cough, you don't often think, oh, I better press mute first. Where is the lighting? Did I put it in the wrong box? Okay, no, it's all good, it's under furniture. Okay, so I'm going to need some of these guys. It just shows my brain isn't working. That's where I always put them, but oh well. Okay, let me just rearrange my keyboard a little bit. Got cables all over it from the mic and headset. Alrighty, so what I want to do is get roughly halfway through. It doesn't look like it's necessarily the right spot. Oh no, that could work. So if you've watched my column tutorial vid, you'll actually recognize the top of that. In fact, you'll probably recognize the whole thing in pieces. So that's going to be the columns I have down the side and around the base. So I wanted some lights, but I also wanted to make sure that they looked like they match the base. So that is the structure I'm going with. I'll get this guy out of the way so it's easier to see. Oh yeah, that totally floats my boat. That looks great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a whole bunch of the lower sections and I'll go from there. I am going to separate them out a fair bit, except on the main base where they'll have a few close together. We'll see that when we get there. I'll need to remove that one. I actually got to think about what I'm doing because I've not done this particular design before. The first few will just take me a little bit longer till I get the swing of what I'm doing. Oops. Yeah, snap it to the opposite, that works. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build them to that level. And first thing I'm going to do is just run it all the way up to here and work out the end position. So I'm going to put one here. One here. And then all the way around it's just going to be flanking the square segments. I can't wait to see these in all done. I'm not sure how long this is actually going to take. It is a fairly easy process, but being that there's going to be so many of them, it might take this vid and another one. I'm hoping to get a good portion of them done though. These ones here, they will only be shallow, whereas the bridge ones I'll need to go to the ground. Just so the bridge actually has some supports. I know it doesn't need supports, but it has to look like it needs them. So what I'm going to do is come halfway across the bridge, roughly. About there. Look about halfway. Actually, I think it's probably more this one. So I'll just pop that last one back in place. So there's only going to be two that go to the ground then, that's good. But I will do that afterwards. So let's Put walls around them. I wonder if it would be quicker to just run around and do them all. It's getting very bright. Oh, that's dropped it too much. 3, that'll have to do. Any brighter, I won't be able to see what I'm doing. No, that's wrong. Okay, so that's the first of many to break. Now I feel my hotbar's set up wrong. These guys should be further down. They don't actually need the triangle ceilings very often. The walls I do. Those more often than that. That's probably about equally. Okay. Okay, let's see what I'm doing. I might have just done the same thing over again. Try a different angle. Trying to find a point where I can see a little bit clearer. Now because of the way I did this, I can have them separated out fairly well. I'd rather not cluster them all together because I'm going to have a lot of lights, and the more lights you have, the more lag you're going to have to deal with. Okay. I'm actually going to have to put this recording on hold. Something has come up. I will be back shortly. Okay, so I got interrupted there, I'm afraid. Not a problem, we'll just carry on from where we were. It's actually quite a bit later than when I left you. I could edit this out and you wouldn't even have to know, but I don't really see the point. Okay, so what it looks like is that one's buried in the side. I'm getting quite excited to see how this is going to turn out. So the idea I'm going with is I'm going to place all the bottom ones. We already said that. It's sloping inwards, isn't it? Yep. The one. And I've been waiting for this build to be finished for a while. I've actually refrained from posting any of my existing builds on the YouTube channel so far. I've got quite a number of builds that I still have save games for. I could go through and record them, but there's a couple that, or one of them doesn't exist, but there is the second tour of it that Maz did. I haven't wanted to go through and tour it. Like, I could do it for my own channel, but I let Maz go through and I still point people towards that video. It's better than anything I can produce, and let's face it, it's content that I've let him use. I just sort of figure that I'll leave it that way. I do actually have a build that isn't quite finished, and that may at some point get recorded by me or by someone else, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, that particular build that I'm thinking of, it's the base I call Aquaticus. Now I named that before I even started building it. Well, at least early days. I don't normally name my builds, but I've done so many now, I'm actually having problems describing them, because now it's first tour vid, second tour vid covers 2 builds, but it's still, I can still refer to it in that respect. I don't really like referring to it like that. I'd much rather actually call it by its name. So Aquaticus is a thing. Well, these are looking good. Well, I can't wait to see when they've got their tops on. And I just noticed it's getting a bit dark, so let's gamma up. Ooh, that's way too much. No, too low. And let's go with the Goldilocks 4. Now I have wondered about removing this section of storage, but because the base won't get used, I am going to leave it in. I quite like it. I actually put a roof on it earlier. When I had a few moments between shots, I was looking at it and I was like, oh, I've never put a top on it, I've never put the roof in place. Why have I not done this? I'm almost need some more of those. I've almost finished the build and I still haven't put a damn roof on it. I better get around to doing it, at least for the final shots. It's a bit slack. Oh, that's too many. Let's lose that, lose that, lose that. Still want those. Let's just drop the stacks by half and drop that by half. Get myself nice and light so I can move. So yeah, like I said, I could go through and redo some of the vids, even the ones that have been to it. I'd rather not. I like that Maz got some views out of that. I would like to have him back for another build. He doesn't really play Ark anymore. I'm actually really gutted about that. I like Maz. He's a nice guy. I've actually spoken to him a couple times with the tour vids now, and the thing that always got me was he's just a genuine guy, you know. As you see him on stream, as you see him on video, that's him. You know, I never got any impression of falseness or anything like that. He's just a genuinely nice dude, and it's really nice to be able to talk to people that are honest, you know. Because there's so many people out there that do recordings and whatnot, and they tend to be quite, not all of them, some of them can be quite false people, and it's not even in like being a dick or anything like that. They're, you know, they put so much of the voice on. You know, Maz does bump it up a little bit when he's chatting and whatnot, but it was pretty much exactly the same as when he was having a chat and when he was really enjoying something. It's really good to see people that can give an honest sort of persona, you know. I very much doubt he'll ever see this video. If you do, good on you, Maz. You're a good guy. Been a long time since he's really done much in the way of Ark, so I doubt he'll ever see any Ark vids from here. He had to do it for so long as pretty much his job. I can see why the enjoyment sort of left the game. I watch him on stream quite a lot. If you haven't checked him out, do look him up. It should be pretty easy to search for him. It's just do a search for Mazion on Twitch. I would say I'll put a note in the description, but I can never, because I'm doing all these recordings and then I'll be posting them, I will probably forget to actually do it, so do look him up. M-A-Z-I-O-N. It's pronounced Mazion. I always call him Mazion. It's terrible. I know it's wrong. It's just it's just the way I pronounce it, because everyone calls him Maz, and it's just, yeah. I'd like to see him do some more Ark. I know he's not really into it, but I always enjoyed his videos. It's always the way though, you see somebody doing something that you enjoy, and then when they stop started watching them for, sometimes it's like, oh, I just wish they'd go back to it. But he does some really cool games. I've watched him playing quite a lot lately, actually. Subnautica, not Space Engineers, Astroneer, that's the one. Oops. Assassin's Creed, Fortnite, PUBG, a lot of the usual ones that most streamers play. If it wasn't for Maz, I wouldn't actually be doing this. The tour vids really kicked things off for me. I had a lot of people talking to me about my builds, and you know, before that I just enjoyed, you know, showing people around, and always good fun. It's funny when you're, as a viewer, when you're watching, like when I was watching Mazion, oh god, I told you I keep screwing it up. When I was watching him, you kind of get the feel like you know the person. I found that was the weirdest thing. Like, you spend so long listening to somebody on YouTube, on Twitch, whatever floats your boat, and you sort of, you get to feel like you actually know them. And then when you're actually having the conversation, you realize you're talking to somebody who has no idea who you are, and you may have watched a whole bunch of their stuff, but they are completely clueless when it comes to, you know, anything to do with you. I suppose it's like meeting famous people. I'd love to have met some of the other Pooping Evolved guys, some really good guys in the group. I don't really watch many of the others these days. After Mare stopped... Oh god, I dragged that out. I started concentrating and then started dragging his name out. It's terrible. After Mare stopped playing Ark, I actually stopped watching the Pooping Evolved Ark videos, funnily enough. I don't think there was any specific correlation between the two. I think it was just coincidence, but I used to watch Slip and Chicken Bone. Some of the other guys a little bit less. I watched Chicken Bone because he did a lot of builds, and of course I'm into building, so and like so many others, I spent the whole time thinking, oh man, wouldn't it be great to play with these guys, they're having so much fun, everybody's running around. I think the best episodes were always the start and end season where the guys all got together and were just being really stupid with each other. I always love those episodes. Or when they hung out with each other and just did random crap. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the glass in because once I've got this layer of glass on, I can lose that out of my inventory and I don't have to worry about carrying the extra weight. I think as far as it goes, the more videos and things that people do on YouTube, the less they actually watch YouTube. I mean, some of these guys are spending their entire day recording videos, editing them, posting them. You know, there's actually a lot more involved than you might imagine. I mean, not mine. I'm posting most of my stuff raw, unadulterated. You know, just straight video, pretty much what you'd get on a stream. And I could edit it and make it all pretty and make myself look really great and awesome, but I'm not really into that. I'm not a great Ark player. I can build, but that's about it. And I'm not going to portray it any different. I actually knew somebody who was spending time with a semi-popular streamer. I'm not going to name which streamer it was, and the guy's videos apparently, I didn't actually watch them myself. I'm just getting this from my buddies, and they were always saying that, you know, in his videos he was always this great shot. He's always made out to be this like absolutely awesome sniper, and apparently the videos are really heavily edited and his shots were absolutely shocking. Mine are, I'm terrible shot at this. I have a friend 360, and man, he can hit stuff with a compound bow that I can't even hit with a scope rifle. He was just so good at that. Not the one I wanted. No, give it back to me. I want you there. Okay. So as you can see, I'm just basically building a little bit at a time, keeping it all in stages. Quite a fan of building like this. I call it batch building. That's not what I wanted. I want one of those. Basically the idea is I'm doing it in a way that I can't lose track of the order of things. I mean, I've got a pretty shocking memory at times. I usually remember anything that I really enjoy, like arc stuff. If I think of a design, I generally don't forget it. There are things I do. I was going to say, why is that there? I'm easily distracted. Something shiny and that's it. I'm lost. Okay, why are you not cycling to the snap point that I want? There you go. So I know quite a few streamers these days. Most of them are small times. Midnight Victoria, Damon Whalen, Nick Gia. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Oh, Dragon with a... Oh, I think it's Dragon Gaming, spelt with a 0 instead of an O. He's a really nice guy. Well, they all are. I'm not saying, not singling anybody out individually. And they've all been really supportive. Like, because I chat with a lot of them, you know, just off and on. Talk about like just random streaming and videos and things like that. I always have a laugh with them, well, not all of them, but some of them, about the, at least as a streamer, they get to talk to somebody, whereas when you're doing just the videos, sometimes it's, you're having this one-sided conversation, and the conversation can just drift so wildly just because you don't have anybody specific to talk to. You're just trying to keep the conversation going while you're shooting the slope walls that have misplaced. And you know, I would like to be able to talk about something really interesting and exciting. I don't know what everybody's into. I've shared a few things that I enjoy. Always enjoy books. I've said a few times I even enjoy books that people consider kids books, and I've read some pretty obscure things. I do tend to reread the same good series. Like, I've got a few series that really float my boat. I've mentioned Pern, I've mentioned Ellie Modisett Jr. I love some of the Terry Pratchett books. Honestly, I have not finished them all yet. I do actually regret that, because they're such a great story. Make very little sense. If you're not a great reader, they can be a little bit confusing because a lot of the words are made up. I was reading with somebody close to me, and we were going through sort of reading to each other. Don't ask me why, it just happened. And I remember when we got to some of the names, and they were like, okay, I don't know this word, what the hell is this word? And I'm looking at it thinking, I really have no idea. Like, my scope of English language is pretty minimal at best. But I'd like to think that I've seen at least a good portion of words, and some of the stuff that I was getting shown was like, I haven't got a clue. It's like somebody spent an hour in the thesaurus just to make sure that everything was as confusing as possible. But when you realise that Terry Pratchett's books are just sort of like that, and you start to read between the lines, even if some of the words don't actually make sense because they're just made up, you can gather the context just from the rest of the sentence. It's a shame. I think it was last year he actually passed away. I always hate to see authors pass away because then the joy they brought through their books is just going to stay at what they've already produced. I did read a book that I considered really interesting, called Riverworld. Now, I very much doubt any of you will probably know it. The idea is anybody who ever died on Earth, whenever they've died, their souls have been kept, and it's kind of an alien culture of sorts that has sort of captured all these souls, and at some point in Earth's, I'll say future, after Earth's pretty much gone, every single person that has ever lived is reborn on the Riverworld, and the Riverworld is effectively, oh god, it's effectively just one massive world, and the whole thing is a river, just snaking all over the place. And like I said, anybody who's ever died on Earth ends up getting reborn on the river. So the actual premise of the book is so awesome because anybody who's existed could interact with anybody else who's existed. So the chances of characters meeting up, or just people from different time periods. I say characters, I meant real people. Oh really? Damn you. Yeah, and then the idea is they're trying to find out what Riverworld actually is. And it's a really awesome story. I often think of it when I'm playing Ark, because whenever you die, you get reborn. Like if you die, you end up waking up in the river as a freshly spawned character, so to speak. So I'm pretty sure there's quite a few Ark groups out there now. I only really know the Pooping Evolve guys, at least by name. I know there's a few other groups, but I don't actually know the names of their groups. Charming. Defecate on the base again. Yeah, I don't really go actively looking for YouTube vids anymore. I will go and have a look for streams. I do spend a lot of time with, especially fresh players. I'll join stream, and it's that new phase of playing where everything is just joyful. It's like, oh my god, look at that raptor, oh look at the Rex. You know, that part of the game that when you've been playing it for as long as we have, it doesn't slip away so much, but you kind of miss that, and a lot of people try and recapture it by starting the game fresh. And I find that doesn't actually help. some more of those. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of starting again. I would much rather take a build team with me. It's getting really bright. I'd much rather take a build team with me and just knock out a build. Just have something fun to play in. Ooh, bit of lag there. So I've also read, especially in my youth, I read a lot of teen reads. I got into Shadowrun there for a little while. That was really cool. There's actually a few games about it now. It's really hard to describe the series. It's got a mix of cyberpunk and magic and all sorts. I really like the Deckers. They're basically humans that have computers sort of built into their skulls, and they're effectively new age hackers. And you know, you instead of connecting to the internet, you go onto the cyber web, and it's like a physical presence, like you're actually uploading yourself, kind of thing. And if you go up against company ice, they call it black ice or something like that, if you die, you can actually just physically die. Just Compensation was my favourite. I was gutted, somebody borrowed it off me and never returned it. Now, I found it very, very difficult to find a copy of it. I would like to replace it, but you know, one of those things. I did find a digital copy, so that'll have to do. I'd much rather have a paper book though. Well, I say one. I've got lots. Well over 1,000 books by now. I've sort of stopped counting. Got a lot of Steven Spielberg. Not Steven Spielberg. Stephen King. Why did I say Spielberg? Yeah, I got a lot of Stephen King. I haven't read them all. I always keep him just in case I want to read it. There's a few authors that I will collect anything by them and keep them for when I do actually want to pick the series up. Like I said, I repeat read a lot of the ones I really enjoy, which doesn't really leave a lot of room for anything else. My other half's currently, she went through the Star Wars books. Well, core stories, not the expanded universe, which is no longer apparently canon. I know a lot of guys are upset about that. But apparently one of the reasons they changed it was that because Chewie is such a hard character to write for, they actually killed his character off. And I think that was the final straw for them to kill off the expanded universe and just start it again so that Chewie's still alive, because I can't blame him. It's Chewie. He's just one of those characters you just don't ever want to see disappear. Oh, there it goes finally. There's a few characters I never understood why people enjoyed. I'm glad that Maz won't ever watch this, because I never understood why people like Boba Fett. I always thought he was kind of a meh character. I don't know, that's just me, but I know that a lot of people like the fact that he's wearing the Mandalorian armor, which is that in itself is cool, but I don't know, I thought it was, yeah, pretty meh. Although you do find out in the expanded universe, which is no longer canon, that he does actually crawl out of the Sarlacc pit. And then he's killed by something else. Can't remember what it was. In a long time. Yeah, I know Maz likes Boba Fett. So yeah, glad he's not watching this. Really don't get it. I think out of, especially if you're going for a bad guy, Darth Maul, he is interesting. Oops, turn that off. I know he actually shows up a little later on. It turns out he survives being chopped in half. So that actually makes me wonder whether or not Palpatine survived his fall. I mean, okay, there was the big lightning blast when he falls down into the reactor, but I don't know, let's face it, Maul got chopped in half. He's doing okay. As long as somebody picks him up in time. Oh, hopping on something that's moving like this. Let's just move you out of the way. I'm going to get motion sick. I don't get motion sickness, but if you keep doing that I will. Now I don't think this is in the right place. Oh, actually no, that's fine. Oh, again, I forgot to pull that front one off. Try not to shoot the wrong thing while it's rocking about. So I'm not sure how much of these I'm going to get done by the end of the video. Now, I've had to stop and start and I forgot to reset my timer, so it's going to be a little bit wonky. What am I doing? Oh, that's right. I'm quite a big Star Trek fan. I've spoken about Star Wars a few times, I think. I'm not sure I've actually mentioned Trek. Love Trek. I think the utopian society, the whole idea that mankind can get better, I think it's a bit of a far-fetched idea, but I like the idea of it. I'd like for people to be a lot nicer to each other and accepting. Oops, that's not right. But let's face it, we've seen what people are like when they're anonymous on the internet. There's some pretty nasty people out there. I'm sure most people have met a few of them. It's a shame, back in the day, oh god I sound old, back in the day it was usually just techies and whatnot, at least where I'm from, that had the internet, so the people that were generally the kind of people you would meet were pretty good people. You know, you got a few strange people, but you get that in anywhere. But now every man and his dog has the net, and it has given everybody a voice. And the internet is great because it gave everybody a voice. It's also absolutely terrible because it gave everybody a voice. It's a bit of a dual-edged weapon, that one. That makes sense. I use that expression, but not sure how it translates to other countries. I'm not even sure it translates to my own country. So as to Star Trek, I think it's one of those things that whatever you watched when you were a kid is the Star Trek you like. So I watched Star Trek Voyager. That was my Star Trek. I did watch a bit of Next Generation whenever it was on reruns on TV, and I did enjoy it. But Voyager, I was a kid when it came out, and I watched it back to back. My sister was really into it as well, and she ended up buying the videos as they came out. Yeah, back in the days of videos, and we used to sit and binge watch them. A lot of binge watched Star Trek. I do like a lot of the other series as well. They've all got their own defining features. Oh, pardon me. They've all got their own defining features, and I can't really fault any specific one or pick any specific one that I like. I think I liked Voyager because the ship was a little bit non-standard. I'm glad they've sort of steered away from... I mean, I know they still look like a flying saucer with toilet roll engines, but it's... The Voyager had a different kind of shape about it. It was starting to veer away from that traditional ship shape. And obviously when we got onto the Delta Flyer, very, very different than anything that Starfleet ever produced, and I like that. I think the Starfleet vessels, I like the premise of having the style of ship, but there's been very little variance in it, for my liking at least. Let's look at this. I quite like the Defiant. That was a very nice ship. Should do it. Rid of everything else. Yes. Yeah, the Defiant was a really cool ship, and I did like Deep Space Nine. The Dominion War and everything, that brought some really cool stuff out of the woodwork. I can't remember this particular season, but I do remember when the episode came out where they're basically expecting the worst. Oh, I haven't gone and replaced that one. They're expecting the worst, and I think it's I can't remember if it's the Romulans or Klingons that decloak first, and basically just a whole fleet of vessels decloaks, and they're all like, oh, it looks like we have got backup. And then on the other side of the space station, the other either the Klingons or the Romulans decloak, and you end up with this massive fleet of starships. And that's something you didn't really see a lot in Star Trek. Star Trek, they tend to move away from violence where they can, and I definitely think that's a good way of going, but at the same time, sometimes you need a little bit more. And I think the level of violence that they used in a lot of cases was a little bit weak. You know, I'm not saying, you know, make them super violent or anything like that. I think the new Star Treks actually... Well, that's not very helpful. I think the new ones actually captured it a bit more. It was a bit more brutal. Now, I still remember when that came out and I saw that woman get sucked out into space, or sorry, blown out into space. And you hear a "Lieutenant," and then just drifts off into space. I remember watching that and going, oh my god, that was brutal. You do not normally see that in Trek. There is actually an instance before that where it does actually happen to... I can't remember, I think it was one of the other movies. But yeah, I remember watching that and it just blew my mind that they'd sort of gone to that level of realism. If I was to actually pick a universe to live in, I probably wouldn't pick any of those. Star Wars or Trek. I mean, obviously, as a reader and watcher, I have an insight into the worlds that they don't. I quite like the Stargate universe, specifically the Stargate Atlantis. I would love to get in on that universe, but then again I want to because I know so much about the well, I won't say so much. I know enough about the universe that it's easy to sort of create your own stories from that. I used to have insomnia, and I used to tell myself stories to get to sleep. Anything I could think of, doesn't really matter. And what on earth? Why is there such a big difference in that? Oh, that went well. That one. Still don't get why there was such a massive difference. Should have just snapped the top of that. This is tricky on a moving quits. Yeah, there's something about Atlantis that I really like. I was kind of gutted that they didn't have more hybrid technology. Like, I've always kind of pictured humans as we get the different technologies and we kind of really we kind of make them into our own. Sort of a, I suppose you could say we harvest other technologies. Let's hop off here. This is my own fault. I'll leave that one. Yeah, one of the things I always thought about Stargate was the Asgard technology for beaming. Now, I looked at that, and there's an episode where I can't tell you the exact episode, but the Gold were on a world they weren't meant to be on, and the Asgards come along and they use their beaming technology to hoover up the bad guys. And I remember thinking, well, if they can pull things apart with that teleporter of theirs, why can't they put stuff together? You know, like futuristic 3D printing. I always kind of expected humans to sort of work that out, and then suddenly have the ability to make some cooler stuff and expand the universe a little bit more. Never quite got into the Ori, or whatever they're called. Let me place this first this time and see if it makes it any easier. I'm almost done on the fact that I'm trying it now. Yeah, I never really got into them. I kind of stopped watching SG-1 after Jack leaves the SG-1. Like, I like the new guy, but come on, it was MacGyver. And he did such a brilliant job with Jack O'Neill. And you're coming out pretty good. I'm actually surprised they haven't kept the Stargate series going. I feel like they kind of bailed out of Stargate Universe a little early. I actually quite like that series. I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore fan of that. It had its faults, but the the filming quality of it, the way it was filmed, it was done in a way that I felt like it was almost like I was recording it on a camcorder. You know, there was a more of a feel like you're actually there with them experiencing it. Whereas some of the other series, the way they're cut and the way the general feel of the show, it has more of a staged kind of feel about it. I suppose you'd call it more of a visceral show. Oh, things are starting to light up. Let's place it down. This seemed to be a bit easier marking the center first. Okay. Then again, I think it's the same way with a lot of shows. The shows that I really liked, or had more hope for, like Stargate Universe, I had a lot of hope for that. I thought it could go in quite a lot of good ways. I'm not sure with the path that they were setting in Universe. I think it was a little bit strange. I'd like to have seen more before I could actually gauge quite where they were going with it. Looks like I'm going to need 4 more of these. You settle down. But I love shows like Firefly. Oh man, that is a fantastic show. I'm one of the people that is really gutted that they canned that in the first season. Constantine, another great show. Like, I like Supernatural, but I swear Constantine made me think of Supernatural more like Twilight. It's funny, you won't hear me admitting this very often, I actually enjoyed the Twilight books. The movies, yeah, not so much. And I gotta admit, I have a hard time, since the movies came out, actually reading the books has been kind of ruined for me. I didn't like how that went. I really enjoyed the last book the most. I kind of feel like I would have loved to have seen the series grow from that. I loved how we got to experience the different abilities and how they were starting to sort of manifest and how people were training with them. I really like that part of the story, but I actually read the anniversary, I can't remember how old it is, they did an anniversary edition and I actually picked it up and had a read of it because I'll read. I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to books and whatnot, and things that people don't like, it's not going to put me off. I prefer to make my own decisions on what I do and don't like, and if you like something I don't like, that's fine. I'm more than happy for people to like things that I don't like, and at the same time I don't care if I like something that other people don't like. Everybody's got different preference, music, movies, stories, you name it. And yeah, this anniversary edition. So what she did is did a gender bender. So it's getting a bit dark. So basically everybody that was a male is now a female, and everyone that was a female is now a male, other than the parents of Bella. So Bella, I can't remember what name they end up giving him, but he ends up being a dude, and Edward, the dude, becomes a girl. And I gotta say, the story makes a hell of a lot more sense. so much more sense. And it feels a lot less creepy. Like, I don't know, an old dude stalking some young girl versus an older woman. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on this one, but I found it a little less creepy than the other way around. And I don't know, I think the parts kind of played out a bit better. It's amazing how movies can actually ruin some of the books. You don't see it very often. There's a few books to movies that I get a little bit frustrated with, but I know I'm not the only person. I've said many times before, I'm a fan of the Harry Potter books. I don't care that they're for kids. Like I said, to each their own. There is one particular part in the movie that makes me angry. And it's in the Goblet of Fire, and the guy playing Dumbledore does the whole, "Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, Harry?" and gets real aggro. But if you read the books, Dumbledore is like the most passive dude ever, and there's no way he would have gotten angry. He, specifically in the book, very calmly asks Harry if he did it, and when Harry says no, he's fine with that. And let's face it, if Harry was lying, Dumbledore would have known. He's not an idiot. Can I do this from... No, I can't do it from mounted. Yeah, Harry couldn't have kept a secret from Dumbledore, he was way too onto it. No. Pick you up. And let's pick you up. So while I've been waffling on, I have finished the build. I do believe it is complete. I have a couple of things I'm gonna add post-build just before the tour. I need to spawn in a few little bits. I'm gonna put just a couple of plants. Actually, oh, it's not complete. I did remember something that I forgot to do. Quickly, jump on the Quetzal. I'm getting up close to the hour mark on this video, so if I can get this done just before that runs out, I'll be very happy. Let's get up here and land. I'm pretty sure I've still got all the stuff on me. Don't. Okay, so I can't do what I want because I don't have the parts, so let's make the parts. Let's point this in a way that if I misshoot, I don't shoot anything important. That way. Bench. Wooden bench. Oops. Oh man, I'm still not going to have enough. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and grab the last few bits, and I will be back momentarily. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a bench in front of each of these windows. This is going to be really simple. I'll start with benches. Now I am going to plant up the greenhouse and bring some creatures, spawn some in and just do tame them. They're not going to be anything that's going to get used, they'll be really small creatures, but just to litter a few through the build, maybe a few, more than a few, just to give perspective of how the build is looking, the sort of size of it. And what I'm going to do is I've got small crop plots. Now I've not actually used the small ones before, so I'm keen to see how they turn out, and I'm probably just going to use narca berries, something simple. They're not going to be for actually using, they're just decoration. What is that snapping over there? Oh, I know why that's snapping there. Can I disconnect that snap? No, I can't. Well, that's annoying. Do I risk it? Do I risk it? Can I risk it? I'm sure I've got the choice. If I pick it up, will it break it? And here's the telltale. Oh, I didn't hear anything break, that's a good sign. So what it was is I snapped, oh that looks a lot tidier there now too. I snapped the cooker onto a square tile. So that's what the crop plot was snapping to. There shouldn't be any more of those around here, unless I screwed up pretty bad. So I'll fill these in off camera, or not that I'm actually on camera, off recording. Same with the actual greenhouse itself, I'll fill that up separate. Bring some creatures in, and then I will have to work on my new intro. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how that turns out, and I'm also looking forward to doing a tour of this build. As I said, I'm going to invite a few people on. I'm not sure if they're all going to be able to make it, but I'll definitely send the invite out, see how many are available to do it, and that way as we run around the build, any questions that might pop up from you guys, they might be able to ask. I really hope you enjoyed the experience. I hope you stuck around for the build. I don't expect everybody to, mostly just the hardcore builders. It is a long build. I can't remember specifically, I think this is hour 28. Probably more like 28 and a half if you include a few of the bits that got missed along the way. But it has been an experience. I hope to be doing another build, possibly not this big. I'd like to tone the next one down just a little bit. I say that and then end up building something like this again. It's kind of the way it goes. But like I said, I really hope you enjoyed the experience as much as I did. If you did like the series, the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up on all of them. Go for it, you know you want to. Subscribe if you haven't already. And most of all, enjoy your building. Take care.